Right. Okay. Good. We'll see how those work out. The other thing I just wanted to grab your opinion on is the 5 subs thing this week. The Premier League clubs voted in favour of introducing 5 subs. Ralph seemed to be all for it. Glenn, do you think that's a good thing? Can you see where he's coming from with that? Because he was saying that it could be a game changer, and I know he's used it in I think the West Ham game, for example, wasn't it? The FA Cup. It kind of worked in our favour a bit. So.
Yeah. I kind of change my mind on this every time I think about it. My initial gut reaction when it first got mentioned was, well, that's just going to favour the big clubs, and that's ridiculous. It's just another opportunity for those clubs to put on their super expensive players. But when you think about it, when I thought about it, I thought it actually is going to favour the clubs who don't have a massive drop-off between their starting 11 and their bench. Now, I think we are one of those clubs where, we can go to the bench and they're not much worse than the starting 11. And you could argue that a team like Manchester United, like when we played them a few weeks ago, I looked at their bench and thought that's really poor compared to, what they've got starting the game. So it will favour some clubs. It won't favour others. I think it was inevitable because doesn't the whole of the rest of Europe do it? Don't they have 5 subs in all the leagues? The element that worries me about it is the time wasting element. I assume that you can only stop the game twice to make substitutions, and you've got to do 2 at a time. You can't, you can imagine if you could make 5 individual substitutions, I imagine there'll be some teams making them every 5 minutes until they run out to try and secure a horrible, boring 1-0 win. So I don't really know what they've.
I think it's 3 occasions during the game, not including half time. So you can make a change at half time, and you can still do 3 others, and obviously 9 subs named on the bench. So who knows? Was it inevitable, Dan, do you think, coming in this, just because like the bigger clubs wanted it, and somebody said this week they just keep voting until it got through?
Well, that was it. It's often with the Premier League, if something kind of comes up and gets voted down, then it tends just to go away. But this one didn't ever go away, and I think I'm with Glenn. I think it is a good thing. I think against West Ham we probably saw Ralph, although we all kind of thought, what on earth has he done with that team? You could see the logic that was in the whole bringing your better players on towards the end of the game. But that was in a cup game. In the Premier League, you're not going to make that many changes if you're playing West Ham. You're going to start from a strong team. So I would quite like to see rules be brought in that, because you are increasing the subs, maybe 2 or 3 have to come. You don't have to bring them on, but name 2 or 3 from the academy. Just put them on the bench. I'd quite like to see that. But ultimately, it's common in Europe. It always was a bit strange why we didn't have it here. I don't buy into the fact that it's going to seriously damage the clubs with who don't have as deep a squad, and massively favour the big teams. The big teams have got a huge advantage anyway. Having 2 extra subs isn't really going to make too much of a difference for them, I don't think. And I mean, maybe the only annoying thing is that it was mainly Pep Guardiola that used to moan about it the most, but
and then never make changes.
Ever make any changes. And I mean, that argument was always frustrating. But you can see anytime Ralph's ever asked about it, he is so passionate that he thinks it has to come in. So I would trust his judgment on that from a Southampton perspective for sure.
Daniel's listening or watching in Toronto, and he says absolutely agrees with you, Dan, in that 2 of the subs should be from the youth players so that they can and bleed in the youngsters.
Phil, it's very difficult to police that, though, isn't it? Because the definition, what's the definition of a youth player now, or an academy player? Because I always found it hysterical that you can have homegrown players that are born in Spain, and you can have. Paul Pogba was the best example. United were calling him a youth product. They paid 90 million quid to sign him back. So calling him an academy player, which he technically was because he came through their academy because they signed him when he was 15 or whatever the first time around. So what's your definition? And until you can tighten up those definitions, you can't.
That's a wider debate, isn't it? Off the top of my head, could you? I mean, this is just me making this up as I go along. Could you not? You have to pick 2 players that played in the last under-23s game or something. I mean, I don't know. I'm just making, I mean, there are ways. I mean, Brentford would be buggered on that rule, wouldn't they? But they don't. They'd be all right with anything
Don't
below
have a
that.
team,
Anything below that, they'd be screwed. But there are probably ways around it. But I mean, I've just made that suggestion up.
Yeah.
Is there a danger that this impacts our new transfer strategy? Because we picked up Livramento, Small, Brozier on loan because they're not getting minutes at the big clubs. Could they
I don't think
play
it will.
2 or 3?
Yeah, because I don't think the big clubs are not inclined to throw young players in, and that's the problem. And I don't think that will change. If there's another sort of like 2 spaces for substitutes, Man United would sign another 2 players. They wouldn't necessarily, promote some Man United, bad example, but you know what I mean. I think that they still will want the bright shiny new thing rather than spending a load of time and effort putting a youngster in.
I guess it might work the other way, Phil, with less players going out on loan. Perhaps if someone's going to stick around and get more minutes from the bench, perhaps could work in our favour.
Yeah, absolutely. But I was thinking more if they're forced to be academy players, then naturally we're not going to get the pick of the bunch that aren't getting minutes.
No, I see the argument too.